Hello, good morning on your TV sets in Texas and Louisiana. You're watching on the Smart Money Culture TV network, as well as welcome from around the world joining on Instagram, on Twitter, our X, on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and all the rest. It's always a pleasure to be here. What a wonderful weekend that we had here in the District of Columbia. Beautiful weather, really. Of course, all of that amid as they're passing a bill to draft our kids and it starts like that, right? They draft the kids first, 18 to 26, and then you figure, oh well, I'm fine, I'm older, I'll never be drafted. And then if crap hits the fan, trust me, they'll draft everybody else too. We haven't had a draft, I believe, in over 50 years in this country. And what are we drafting people for? We're drafting people to send them overseas to fight other people's wars? If we do a draft, it should be to stop the people that are coming into the country illegally. And I don't think that we need a draft for that. I don't think I'm alone on thinking that. You guys can let me know, but I feel like that's a pretty common feeling that one, we shouldn't be doing a draft anyway, and two, if we do a draft, it should be to protect our own border, and then three, and maybe even number one, we shouldn't be drafting girls or ladies. I mean, have we lost like the whole like? I feel like and I'm all for it. It's fine. Like women can do whatever they want, and I don't worry about it. It's like the whole gay thing or whatever. I don't care. I don't care. But for us to put that on our ladies, I mean, we have to think about like survival of the of not only our country but of humans and everything else. Yeah. Anyway, you guys can let me know what you think about that. Markets are still declining. The Fed comes out hawkish last week. Not only did he just hold interest rates steady, but the Fed, Jerome Powell and his crew, they as well, came out and said basically that we're not going to do anything anytime soon. And then he cut. Initially, there was going to be 5 rate cuts this year. 5 rate cuts. Then it was 3. Then as I went to one of those banking conferences, it was 2. And now Jerome Powell comes out and says it's 1. And I think that the truth is, who knows if we'll even get 1. And I think that's kind of where everybody's at. I'm not sure if we'll get 1 or not. But that, all that stuff is priced into the market. You have people that are trading, and these are highly sophisticated people. And as well, they're using AI algorithms and everything else. And that stuff gets factored in. So if they think that there's going to be 2 rate cuts for the rest of the year, they're factoring a certain price that they think. And of course, there's a psychological effect as well. But if they think that there's not going to be, then of course they factor that in as well. So we have seen the US dollar strengthening, and as well we've seen the markets decline across the board. Bitcoin is down. We have gold is down, silver is down, Dow futures are down, Asian stocks are all down, and that's normally the way it goes. Of course, if the dollar is strengthening, these other assets, stocks, risk assets like gold and crypto and all these things go down. Oil has been pretty steady. It's flirting there at that number again, right under $80, 78 something, something like that. I do expect oil to move up. The Houthis have attacked again another ship. They've attacked two ships this week out there. One of them was a Ukrainian vessel, and that is basically sinking. I don't know if they're going to be able to salvage it or not, but definitely they pulled the crew off. So in that respect, things are continuing to heat up over there. But of course, now we have, I was just reading even this morning, Netanyahu has dissolved his war cabinet, or he is dissolving his war cabinet. It's it's kind of an interesting development. The talks of him resigning as well. I'm not sure about that. I think the War Cabinet talk that I see dissolving the War Cabinet, that appears to be credible. I don't know about him resigning. We'll see. But we have kind of a cooling. I mean, it is a bit of, even though it's still hot over there. Of course, you have now they're basically taking on Lebanon, right? Or whatever the outfit is there that is fighting out of there. And so that's continuing, but at the same time, the war drums appear to be cooling for a moment. And as well, over in Eastern Europe, you have Putin, who is floating a peace deal. And the scary part is that, to be frank, I think that it might just be a pause on both parts, both in the Middle East and in Eastern Europe. Time for people to rearm and enjoy their summer. I don't know, I could be wrong, but this military industrial, I don't think that we would be instituting a draft if we didn't think that something was going to happen. Without getting into so many details, of course, I have a lot of friends here in Washington, D.C., and guys that are working in different intelligence agencies and stuff like that. And some of them got contracts a year before any of this mess started in the Middle East for specific things that they're doing now that are very pertinent. And it appears to me that the intelligence agencies knew what was going to happen over there. I've said that quite a bit over the time. So, if we are drafting people, I feel like they are assuming that we're going to need to draft people. Otherwise, they wouldn't be drafting people, right? So that bill has passed Congress, passed the U.S. House, and I guess now it's going to be sent to the Senate, where the Senate seems just like a rubber stamp these days. So I can't imagine it's not going to pass the Senate. And we're going to have a draft again. And that should be front and center news for everybody. I don't know, for the kids out there, and 18 to 26 is young. I don't know if you call them kids, but they're 18 to 26, man. I was doing a lot of fun things, but I certainly wasn't going over and shooting people up and getting shot at. And yeah, I don't know how. And then number one and number two, no one supports this draft. So why did the U.S. Congress pass the draft if nobody supports it? And it all loops back to the control of the central bank that I always talk about, and who is actually in control. And we've been at war basically since the central bank was enacted here, the Federal Reserve Act in 1913. We went to World War I in 1914. And with various pauses, we've basically been at war ever since. Of course, World War II was after that. We had Korea, we had Vietnam. We have, I don't know, something like 50 or 100 different conflicts that we've been involved with. It's one of the reasons why I didn't go in. I understood too much of the geopolitical, the macro political situation. Saw us shooting up over in Nicaragua. I knew that was, or Panama, and I knew that was narco wars. I knew the CIA was running drugs over there. The U.S. government was involved. And we sent our boys over there to shoot up Panama to protect our narco trade. And if you know that, why in the world are you going to go into the military? My family had a very long history of military service. Both my dad was shot up in Vietnam. My grandfather was shot up in World War II and Korea. And it goes on back from there, all the way back to the beginning, to be honest. So, yeah, that's it's pretty interesting. But the fact that they are reinstating the draft should alarm everybody. And the fact that it just passed the House, just like that, like, what in the world are these people doing? They are not representing us. They're not representing us, right? I mean, if the military is having problems getting people to sign up, then maybe there's a problem there. Maybe the war is not that popular. We also have a very, there's some videos that I was watching just now of stuff going on, all over the place. Of course, we have a lot of people in the country that from other places, and they got in here however they got in here, and that's going to continue to develop we'll see. Trump was at Turning Point. Of course, we were a partner at Turning Point Conference, the People's Conference. We were pushing tickets and everything for them. I was hoping to be there on site. Family stuff is family stuff, which is very important to me. And I ended up staying here and doing stuff with the family. But I was kind of bummed to miss it. Of course, there were some great speeches. Alex Jones was on there. I ran a live feed from it yesterday for a bit. But Trump spoke at it, and Trump said he was going to deport all the people that came in under Joe Biden. And of course, that's music to everybody's ears. I don't know how or if that will actually happen. I don't even know if they're really going to let him get in. I do think, Steve Bannon got on stage, and we'll talk more about what happened at the Turning Point Conference, because it was pretty interesting. But Steve Bannon got on stage and he says they are going to put Trump in jail July 7th. I think he said July 7th they're going to put him in jail, and so that's crazy. I mean, we're in crazy political water. We're in uncharted water. This United States country that we have been part of is really in uncharted territory, and we are, for now, the powerhouse of the world. We're the economic powerhouse of the world. We're the war powerhouse of the world. We work a lot. We're getting taxed a lot too, and that's what people are starting to realize as well. The taxing is really, really high right now. And then they come out with these inflation numbers like they did last week, and of course the Fed is still hawkish, but they said, inflation's coming down. But I mean, basically, we're at the point where people just kind of shrug on the inflation numbers because they don't really mean anything, because nobody is. They just, the real inflation, that we feel is, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50%, sometimes 100% on goods and services. And then they're telling us, it's like 4% or 3% or 2%, or it's like a joke. So people are starting to become desensitized to those numbers. Anyway, speaking of numbers, let's talk to the great Matt Dixon. Matt Dixon, Sir Matt, you've had a busy week. How are you?
Hey, good morning. It's a morning for you. It's about 45 degrees here right now in Dubai. It's seriously hot.
Woo! Yeah.
Hot and
nice to see you.
Massive UV index. You don't want to be here right now, I'm telling you.
I have been there before. I remember walking out of the one of those really nice hotels. I forget which one it is. And I got to the double doors, and it was double doors. And I got to the first door, and I could feel the heat coming in. And I go, what is that? And I go into the first double door, and then I feel the heat. Whoa. And then I go out the next door and outside. And of course, everything's like either sand or it's concrete or whatever, which is like the baking, right? And we were going to walk somewhere, and I said, we're not walking.
Yeah, baking is the right word. It feels like you're walking into an oven. It's really that.
Yep.
Interesting what you said about the, gearing down for war at the moment, but it does. I think it's probably temporary. These, I know Russia are pressing for, a peace for the time being, but they want to keep the land that they've annexed from Ukraine. So whether that will be acceptable or not, but same with Israel, as you say. There's a lot of stuff still going on around with the Houthis. Where it's actually Hezbollah is the organization.
That's right. At the moment, it was like that outfit.
Yeah. That's the outfit in Lebanon. So there's still a lot going around. They fired numerous hundreds of missiles, I think, on Israel. Mm-hmm. So there's still a concerted effort roundabout. But as you say, they're dissolving the war cabinet. So it looks as though maybe they're having a summer lull. Who knows? It's summer, and markets are quiet. Typically, historically, markets tend to be a bit quiet during the summer. I think that's what we're seeing. I'll just jump into the markets now. Let me just share my screen with you and show where we're at with things. So I trust you can see my screen there.
Yes. Oh, that looks like a pretty nice chart there. Oh, that's the DXY. Okay.
DXY, dollar index. Yes, it's not quite so nice, I guess. It depends from what perspective you're looking. But yeah, dollar index, the dollar has strengthened quite a lot, and quite surprising, really, when you think about. This big fall in the middle was actually when we got the weak CPI news, and we got a big fall in the dollar, and we got a temporary pump in crypto. But it's all been reversed. We got a weak PPI which doesn't seem to have had much positive effect on the market. I mean, PPI is nowhere near as important as CPI. So the CPI is declining. You mentioned 2 interest rate reductions potentially this year. I've been hearing that it's more likely to be 1.
No, it's 1. Yeah, he came out in the FOMC meeting and said 1.
Yeah, 1, so, yeah, possibly even none now. So
I think it's going to be none. I think especially if Trump, it looks like Trump's going to win. I definitely don't think they're going to do it, but they might not do it anyway. Either way, and who knows what's going to happen.
So can Trump win from a jail cell?
I mean, right? Like, I mean, that's where we're at. I think a lot of people are in denial that they're not going to put him in jail. I don't think they've gone through all this to not put him in jail. I think they're definitely going to put him in jail.
I don't know.
This is remarkable.
Unprecedented times.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, this is the DXY. So I looked at it from the bottom to the top of this wave, just measured that, transposed it to the bottom of the next wave, and we just tagged the 100%, spiked slightly above it, but didn't stay above, and looked as though we may have started to dip. So it's hard to say because we could, I mean, 100% is the most likely. If it's a corrective move, you get A, B, C. The C wave is most likely 100% the A wave. That is what we've achieved so far. But the next most common after that, I think, is 1.618, which is right up here, 106 on dollar index.
Wow.
So still a little bit higher. I mean, if you scrolled out, it's not unprecedented, right, but it would be negative crypto. So I'm hoping we've seen a high for the time being. If it's nice at ABC, then we would expect some new lows according to this arrow that I've got drawn down here for dollar index to fall, because it does have a negative impact. So we'll just look at Bitcoin, just see what's happened with Bitcoin. We can see some negative price impact there. And again, looking at the that relationship that I measured. So I measured from the top here to the bottom of this wave that I've got labeled as W, transpose it off this X wave, and the target down is 64,000 for Bitcoin. This was also, looking at another fib measurement, was another target that we already achieved perfectly, and prices moved up since then. But actually today we're moving down reasonably sharply. We may break through that. This would be the next support level, as I say, 64,000. But I still think, if you look, and I've said this on numerous shows now, that I still believe that this is a corrective move down. You can actually see it's very, very overlapping, this movement down. And we may not have finished this final Y wave. It may have a bit lower to go, but I think this is all a correction, choppy corrective movement to the downside. And we'll scroll out just a bit further, and we can see again that the main impulsive direction is still definitely to the upside here. And then when you're looking at this movement from the all-time high that we had, 73,000 and odd, it's just been sideways, choppy movement. You know, we haven't broken down here. We haven't broken to new highs, so it's just choppy sideways. We may break lower. I mean, if it is a large W, X, and Y, we could actually break quite a bit lower. But even so, for those hodlers, it's still probably a good bet long term. And who would bet against Bitcoin at the moment? The Hong Kong ETF has had more than expected money flow into it. We've had during June, we've had some amazing positive money flows. Yes, there's been a couple of negatives recently of recent days, but in general, there's a lot of money flown into these ETFs. And then the Ethereum ETF, when they open, there's a lot of money, and there's also a lot of money with, if you look at Ethereum, there's a lot of money come off the exchanges, and normally people put money onto the exchanges when they're planning to trade something. So if Ethereum has come off the exchanges, then that means they're less likely to trade. They're looking at hodling. Maybe they're putting it into cold wallets. They're looking at hodling, or maybe into the ETF when it's opened. So that means there's probably less sales pressure looking ahead. So I think sentiment is still positive. I do think it's just a matter of the summer doldrums where things go a bit quiet for the summer. There's no major impetus for the markets. It's reasonably sensitive when news does come out, like when we had CPI the other day, that we did get, it was weak CPI, weaker than expected. We got a little pump in the crypto prices and risk asset prices. But overall, most of the traders, certainly a large number of the institutional traders, are off for the summer, and summer is quiet, and that's just been always the way. Even though a lot of trading these days is algorithmic, there's still, I think, an awful lot that is actually still is managed, overseen. Whilst it might be algorithmic sort of help, as it were, to make trade decisions, I think the actual final pulling the trigger is still down to human beings who all want to have a quiet summer holiday. So I don't think.
Well, yeah, I mean, you certainly don't want to be in the position of. I mean, we've all tried the bots and had them work really well, and then get drained. Right? You learn fairly quickly that you gotta manage those algorithmic things.
Yeah, I mean, there is no way to just leave it entirely, not yet anyway, entirely into the hands of machines. So there's still that human oversight. The only one that I can see just looking across the board today that's pumping, I mean, obviously we've got DXY, which is slightly higher, but XRP is actually standing out from the crowd. So XRP is up 2.5% today, and it's the one of all the main cryptos. They are due, and it tends to go when nobody's expecting, and nobody would be expecting right now looking at this market. I mean, even Solana's down 5.5% today, and yet we've got XRP up to 2.6%.
Even Toncoin, and Toncoin's been just beautiful.
Yeah, Toncoin down 4% today. So we just have a quick look at Ton. We can see a sharp move down. Now again, it could be just a corrective move, an ABC move down, so we could still push higher. But if it pushes higher, and at the moment we've got XRP, it's just continually climbing right now, 2.64% right now. As we speak, it keeps jumping a little bit higher. So if XRP 2.66, it just tagged. So if it's still pushing higher while the rest of the market's down, I think if the rest of the market does push to the upside, I think that we'll see even more follow through on XRP. And I did hear some rumors of some good news out of XRP, something to do with Apple. And we'll find out and wait for that news. I think it's not really due out yet. I think it's going to be August, September, but potential news in the pipeline, good news in the pipeline for XRP there. So that's probably the reason for the bit of a pump that we're seeing today. But even so, it's still, there's nothing conclusive. We can see the price right here now. It needs to break above all this corrective sideways movement that's been going on now for months. It's not really gone anywhere. It's just been sideways, up, down, totally overlapping. So if we want any confidence in this, we do need to see it sort of breaking substantially higher. But that is possible if we see a turnaround in the markets. And just again going back to Bitcoin, this is just corrective, as I say. So at some point we do expect a turnaround in the markets. I expect it to at least turn around at some point soon and at least retest the previous all-time high at 73,000 and change, and potentially could break massively higher. So I've got a couple of scenarios here I'd just like to touch on very briefly. This could be the end of the correction down, where we've got basically from the all-time high, we've got an A, B, C down, which I've labeled here as W, but that could be the completed correction down, and the movement up since then could be a wave 1 and a wave 2 in red, and then we're working on a wave 3 in red, but wave 3 in red would itself be made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's entirely possible that from that wave 2, we've got a wave 1 up and a WXY wave 2 down to here. Next would be a wave 3. I can't be sure whether this little corrective move is finished, but if that's the case, and if that's the correct wave count, we have got some massively impulsive pump to come on Bitcoin. If it is 1, 2, basically 1, 2, so it would be wave 3 of 3 to the upside. That would be expected to be a very powerful move. So I would not dare be short on any crypto at the moment with that possibility in mind. When I say possibility, as I say, there are no guarantees. Possibilities have probabilities, and there's a fair probability this is the case, that potentially, and I couldn't really bet against it with the money that's flowing into ETFs, the positive backdrop for Bitcoin and for Ethereum and for all the other cryptos really. I couldn't bet against it. And this is so often the case that before a big move to the upside, you do see a sell-off and you see consolidation. And consolidation is the time when most people get bored and say, oh, it's not going anywhere. They sell out, they close their positions, and then they miss out on the big move. And when you see these consolidations, I would say that's probably the time to be DCAing, not put all your eggs in one basket, but DCAing, perhaps just collect a little bit, because the likelihood is that at some point, and we don't know quite when, there's probably going to be a big push to the upside. And as I would say, at least the previous all-time high. But if this is a 1-2, 1-2, and then 3 expected, wave 3 would blast through that previous all-time high to new highs. And I saw predictions today from major fund managers. I can't remember the name offhand, but they're predicting $1 million for Bitcoin by the year 2033. So that's 9 years away, $1 million. So that's a reasonable pump, but they're still expecting, most of the big institutions are expecting Bitcoin probably 80 to 90,000 by the end of this year. That's the general expectation. So wouldn't dare bet against that. They probably know what they're talking about. And the charts are telling us that there is real potential for upside. So 80 to 90,000, and we're currently at 65. So we're probably talking about a 50% potential roundabout, up to 50% rise from here by the end of the year. And that would be a tremendous profit for anybody from halfway through the year, 6 months. If it does achieve 50%, that would be pretty amazing. So that's Bitcoin. We'll just touch very briefly on a couple of the other tokens before we move on. But I will take a look at gold. Now, as Bruce said, things are pretty much on hold. And we've had this labeled for a long time now as basically a corrective movement to the downside, an A, a B, and a C to the downside. And that's precisely what's happened. But the movement up so far actually looks, from the C wave that I've got labeled, I don't think the C wave is complete, actually. I think we're going to go a bit lower personally, because what we have here, this little movement here, I'll remove this circle, it's probably distracting. This movement here to the upside from here looks corrective. And normally for this kind of move, I would expect that the C wave would probably finish lower than this end of this A wave here. So we've got what's called probably some kind of expanded correction, where you've got the A wave, the B wave has gone just above the start of the A wave here. So the B wave just went above it. And you would normally probably expect the C wave to come down a bit lower than the end of this A wave here. So that's why I've got the C wave, and I'll move that arrow there. Got the C wave possibly a little bit lower, but this again looks corrective to the downside. So again, I expect new all-time highs to come for gold, precious metals, even silver, which is very much an industrial metal, and silver is related very much to the economy. But the economy looks to be in reasonable shape. We're seeing interest rates going down now in various places around the world. So Europe has reduced interest rates. Canada has reduced interest rates. You can be certain UK will reduce interest rates next, because I saw their inflation have come down. And this is what's holding back the Federal Reserve at the moment, is their inflation is still sticky high, above where it should be. It's fallen a little bit. They'll need to see more. So it's hard to say whether they'll manage to get this one rate cut by the end of the year. But if we see the economy slowing and we see inflation falling off, they'll jump in quickly with interest rate reductions. So it's just really data dependent. Let's just see what happens. So that's gold taking a little bit of a breather at the moment. As I say, maybe a little bit lower, but should soon push more to the upside. And oil, as Bruce said, there's nothing much geopolitically driving it at the moment. People are pricing out any major risk at the moment. Maybe there are talks of, peace talks and so on, de-escalation going on. But oil, if there's no geopolitical driver, then it's going to be dependent on, obviously, supply and demand. So how much is being supplied, by OPEC, Saudi Arabia, etc. So how much supply is in the market and how much demand is in the market. So the fact that they're lowering interest rates around the world now, a lot of places around the world, and we're probably still seeing a slowing of the China economy, then there's going to be probably less demand for oil. But if they actually produce less, so OPEC will try to, OPEC are there to try to stabilize oil prices, really. And if there isn't a great deal of demand, they'll reduce production a little bit to try to stabilize and keep oil at what they believe is a sensible level. So there is a force there to try to maintain stable oil prices. And I suppose they've done that over the years. Oil price has been stable apart from those few times, where we've seen geopolitical issues and things like that. But in general, oil, as we say, tested below this long-term support line here. It's gone above, and it's not retested. So it's looking as though oil is probably slightly bullish. And as Bruce said, I do think the oil is that asset which hasn't moved over years historically. We looked at this the other day. Historically, oil is really, really cheap. And that's because they found new oil reserves and they found better ways to extract it. But at some point, I think oil will take off. And so, again, it's another of those assets. I wouldn't like to be short oil, oil futures or anything like that. But and we now have, again, this support still in place. We tested below it, failed actually, and gone right back above. So if we went to the weekly, for example, and just open that out so you can actually see it. Yeah, weekly. Weekly did stay below. Sorry, I just jumped to monthly on that. It's quite important to see whether something. Yes, this is quite interesting. So when you're looking, you want to see long term. When I say long term, we're looking at monthly candlesticks here, but it's quite interesting. This was a support line I got on here, and we can see that price tested below, but when it doesn't close below, and we're now approaching, we're not there yet, but we're approaching towards the end of the month. And if this candle here finishes above this support line, then that probably will be quite bullish oil. And we can see here it's actually quite a bullish candlestick at the moment. So it's looking as though we're going to actually push higher on oil in the times ahead. So again, whether that's for geopolitical reasons or whether it's for consumption reasons, but I was just saying that the reduction of interest rates, they're doing it because economies are slowing. They need to try to stimulate the economies. So as I say, so far that's happened in Europe, Canada, it's going to happen in UK, and we don't know when it's going to happen yet in the US. But if they're stimulating economies, then they're hoping for economies to pick up. So maybe that'll cause oil prices to pick up. Or it could be that there's an escalation in the Middle East. Who knows? So there's just a couple of other things I want to touch on before we finish. Jasmy has been a token which has really got people's attention. They've got an amazing community, very excitable community, but they're very, very, sorry, I need to get away from that weekly. Let's just get on to 4 hour again. So again, we can see that Jasmy has got people's attention. So we had a really solid impulsive rise here. From this wave 4, I've got it labeled in red. We're pushing on a wave 5. We've got wave 1, 2, 3, somewhere there, 4, which I'd have to move down to there now. And we're probably at some point soon. The 4 may not be finished, but I think most likely it has finished. And I think we're going to push up in a 5th wave much higher. So Jasmy is looking positive. It's one that's actually featured on eBay ratings. It actually got an upgrade, not only an upgrade on the portfolio feature, which actually looks at theoretically the most efficient possible portfolio from a risk-adjusted reward perspective, basically. So from that perspective, Jasmy got into one of the top portfolios that in the eBay portfolio rating system. And this is, bear in mind, based on modern portfolio theory, efficient frontier. This is what all investment decisions around the world were, the foundation of what they're based on. And this is what is being used, and it's put together by Nobel Prize winners. The modern portfolio theory and efficient frontier. So it's well-respected science and academically proven and tested. So the fact that Jasmy was in there is a big positive for them. But I will just touch very briefly on a couple of the other upgrades for eBay, because as I've mentioned, and we're just days away now, I won't give the actual day, but we'll probably, as time gets closer, we will give you the day. But we're just days away now from an upgrade for eBay to the Solana chain. And we're basically going to be doing a big new launch for that, which should push the price. In fact, we have seen some good price increases. So for example, just looking at eBay over the past 7 days, we've seen 44% increase in the eBay price. And we're hoping for that to continue. But I'll just show you some of the other things that that we've been looking at today on the eVay watch list. So within eVay, there's all the ratings. Every token's rated. That's available for free. And we've got portfolio features, which are paid features, but we also have a watch list, which is quite interesting. As I said, I can't personally, as a trader, I can't be looking at the 700 plus tokens that eVay rate. I can't look at those all day, every day to determine which ones to look at. So what the watch list does is does a lot of that work for me and just identifies which tokens have got major upgrades or downgrades. And then maybe I should look at them, do a bit more due diligence, and then decide which to buy and sell. So we just looked at a few here. So Bitcoin is actually, there's been no change in the rating, and Bitcoin has been pretty flat. So that's, fair enough. In fact, it's slightly down. And Bitcoin was recently downgraded from AAA to AA. So that's probably indicative of the bit of a turn down in price we've seen from 73,000 to 66. It doesn't just look at price. Obviously, it looks at all sorts of other things. And we use advanced adaptive computing to handle all of the data that comes in and makes these decisions. But here's a couple or three to look at which were upgraded. So maybe you might want to do a bit more due diligence, because if the market pumps, these will probably pump more than most. The eBay watch list has highlighted them. So Ascendex here, again, just got a single upgrade there to a B rating, which is a really good solid rating. Ferrum Network, again, a similar single upgrade there to a B rating. And then Multivac, which is an old token that many people know about, but that actually got upgraded as well. So to a B rating. So these are really solid rated tokens. They got moved up from CCC to B. So that's telling us that there's a good likelihood of a positive move ahead, and it's time to do some more DD, to look at entry points, to look at dollar cost average, etc., potentially into these tokens. So as I say, this has done all my work for me, so I'll be looking now where to enter on these particular tokens. So that's pretty much it for today, unless there's any others that you would like me to look at, Bruce, because obviously we've got charts on all sorts of things. I mean, just very briefly again, your Doge is down. They're down across the board, but Doge isn't too bad, down 2%. It's actually faring better, believe it or not, than most of the main tokens out there. Yep. I mean, as I say, Solana's down more than 5%, Ethereum down 2.8%, Doge just down 2.1%. So Doge has become now one of those main tokens. It's not just a meme token anymore. It has real solid use case. So I think Doge can actually pretty much come out of that meme category now. Book of Memes, which I say is always a great one when the market's down. When it turns around, Book of Memes tends to pump more than most, but it's down 8.2% so far today. And Shiba is down 4%. And Jupiter Dex, which is a Solana Dex, down 6.75%. S&P, just very briefly, we broke to new all-time highs, which we did expect. We said that was likely to happen. I expected it would actually create a bit more resistance. It failed first attempt to break to a new all-time high. We got an ABC down of some sort, then it pushed again and broke straight through. So I was surprised it actually got through so easily, but we've had what looks like a corrective move down. So again, S&P, like the other risk assets, I'm expecting to push again to new all-time highs. And I think they'll all be carried together: Bitcoin, Ethereum, other risk assets, S&P, Dow, etc. So I think this is just a consolidation period we're in right now. It's that period, as I say, where a lot of people get bored of the market, may pull out, may just turn away, and that's when the market pumps, and unfortunately so many people then miss out. So
that's the way it works. Well, another amazing report. I'm also looking forward to the update on eVay. So that's pretty exciting stuff. Amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's some real opportunity there. As I say, 44% in the last week. Wouldn't surprise me to see some very substantial gains. Obviously no guarantees, but I think it's set up with the news that I know that's going to be coming on, through the wires. So should be a good opportunity, but we'll let people know exactly how they can participate in that if they want to in coming days.
Amazing.
So thank you, Bruce. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Awesome. We'll see you tomorrow.
Great stuff. Thanks.
Cheers. So I wanted to go over Turning Point, of course, had their conference. I talked a little bit at the beginning of the hour here at that conference. There was a lot of interesting things that happened at this conference. So it was Turning Point, the People's Conference. I mean, there was really just, a number of things that went on there. I want to go over some of the clips. I actually ran a feed from, we were partners, so I ran a feed from the event yesterday, but it's really just easier for me to just pull some newsworthy clips from other people who have put them together. One of the things that was really interesting was that just the talk, the overall talk, and I guess I'll call it mantra of the people on stage. You know, as I mentioned, Stephen Bannon really with some strong words, as well. You had Jack Posobiec up there. He got Alex Jones on there. Alex Jones gave a really impassioned speech. Of course, they've been after Alex Jones for a long time. Whatever you think about the guy, I think his right to talk about what he thinks is important. But this is the moment when Jack Posobiec brought him on stage. And again, kind of a historic conference, to be honest.
There's another man. There's a man who taught us many things. A man that is hated even more by the media, all those media back there, even more than Donald Trump, even more than us. A man who taught us that there's a war on for your mind. A man who taught us that if you are listening to this, you are the resistance. And a man who taught us that the answer to 1984 is 1776. Let's play the video.
Censored ban in the English language.
They want me shut down. I can't just roll over you, Kelly. So you've made me be all in for Trump. They're waging war against civilization and society to break our old system to bring in something even worse. This is part of the global awakening to the New World Order. It's all about breaking our will.
The answer to 1984 is 1776! 1776! 1776! 1776!
So yeah, I mean, I guess the biggest thing I wanted to just kind of point out is the level of intensity that is going on there. I mean, previously I feel like, you know, this type of talk, whether it's right or wrong or anything like that, I'm not here to talk about that, has been met with a lot of pushback. Of course, that would cost you your Twitter account possibly back in the day. Now, of course, we're supposed to have free speech in this country. It's in the Constitution. And there is a lot of crazy things going on here. So here's Alex Jones. He's defining who the enemies are. And again, this was really it's really amazing moments that we had here. Here's Alex Jones.
I want to just talk briefly about who our enemies are. They are globalists, transhumanists, world government, and only America stands in their way. And in just the last few months, as you know, across the world, from Latin America to Australia to New Zealand to Eastern Europe to Western Europe to Canada, in every major election, the conservative, populist, anti-New World Order parties are winning and taking over. And Klaus Schwab, the head of the WEF that basically runs the UN, has had to resign, and there is massive pressure on our arrogant enemies everywhere. I want to just talk briefly about who our enemies are. They are globalists, transhumanists, world government, and only America stands in.
Oops. So let's just talk about that for a brief moment. I mean, I'm an Alex Jones Alex Jones supporter. I've tried to get him to speak at my conferences before. I've had different conversations with his team and everything else. That I think if that is our explanation of who the enemy is, and again, I love Alex Jones, but that was not clear. Who's the enemy? Let's watch that again. It's a very short clip. Who's the enemy again? Because if that's how we're describing the enemy.
I want to just talk briefly about who our enemies are.
And let me just be clear. I'm dissecting him. I'm totally Monday morning quarterbacking here. Okay. He said a lot of other things, but I do want to play this because I think it's important because we need to define who the enemy is. And I'm not coming down on him here, but that really caught my eye.
They are globalist, transhumanist, world government, and only America stands in their way. And in just the last few months, as you know, across the world, from Latin America to Australia to New Zealand to Eastern Europe to Western Europe to Canada, in every major election, the conservative, populist, anti-New World Order parties are winning and taking over. And Klaus Schwab, the head of the WEF that basically runs the UN, has had to resign, and there is massive pressure on our arrogant enemies everywhere.
That's the end of that clip. So yeah, I will say that we need to, as a people, and I would say as a country, but yeah, as a country, but as a people, we do need to figure out who the enemy is. You know, globalist, transhumanists, this and that and the other. I love Alex Jones. I love everybody, and you know, everybody's walking a tightrope. Alex Jones knows what's going on, but he also knows that he can't really say that much at a conference like Turning Point, and that's just the facts of the matter. He can't really dig into maybe details. So we have to keep it light. I mean, I do a show every day, so I know what it's like. But we need to be able to define, because that's a very that's a hard thing to say. Okay, but you saw that is the definition. Okay. As well, we had Trump speaking. Okay, we had Roger Stone speaking, representation of the criminal justice system. This is Roger Stone talking about. This is really, I mean, this conference was unbelievable. Really, it was really crazy. Roger Stone.
Of our criminal justice system is on full display. You see, it's a crime to ignore a congressional subpoena, unless, of course, you're Merrick Garland or Eric Holder, and then it's perfectly all right. The weaponization of our criminal justice system is on full display. You see, it's a crime to ignore a congressional subpoena, unless, of course, you're Merrick Garland or Eric Holder, and then it's perfectly all right. The weaponization of our criminal justice system is on full display. You see, it's a crime to ignore a congressional subpoena, unless, of course, you're Merrick Garland or Eric Holder, and then it's perfectly all right.
What do you think they'll do to President Trump between now and Election Day?
You're reading my mind.
What will they do to him?
God literally gave us Donald Trump, imperfect as most men or women that God raises up in history. But he is a man of steel. He is a man who has ice water in his veins. He is a man who gets stronger under attack. And so they have already put him through hell with all these show trials and rigged courts, civil and criminal. And they are going to try to assassinate President Trump. Make no mistake about that. They are going to try to pull out all the stops. And so we've got to pray for President Trump many times a day. And we've got to bust our rear ends to get out there in America, because the people are waking up and they're ready to become fully awake, and let them know that the WF and the UN and Bill Gates have said they're bringing new lockdowns, more forced injections. They're cutting off the farms. They're cutting off the energy. And if you think the economy in free fall right now is bad, it is going to be 10 times worse. So this is existential. We are at war with the globalists, and we must now recognize that this is a war. This is just as important as 1776, and in the context of the population of the world, the weapons we have now, it is more important.
I got to make sure I keep adding myself back to the stage here. Now, it's pretty interesting. I'm going to continue with this for a couple of minutes, but it is pretty interesting. Alex Jones was not on the website or anything like that. He was like a special guest or secret guest or however you want to say it, or added in at the last minute, however it was. Jack Posobiec brought him on stage, obviously Turning Point and everything knew about it, but he was a special guest and really gave an impassioned speech while we were there. Of course, you see the overall, the production value was unbelievable. Here's a clip from Trump here. Trump at Turning Point. They really did a great job. Turning Point.
Macron taking advantage of Biden just the last couple of days. He's looking at him like, how dumb is this guy? What the hell is? They're landing in a parachute, and he turns around not to watch the guy landing, but to watch a tree behind him. And the new and very respected leader of Italy, I didn't know who that was. A woman came up to him and spun him around like he was a top. He had no idea where the hell he was. He's watching a parachute land, and he turns around to look at trees. You saw Macron taking advantage of Biden just the last couple.
Nobody can beat Trump on the stump. I mean, the guy is he's unbelievable. You know what I mean? And he get up there with no notes, no nothing. He's the only person I've ever seen in my lifetime that without a guitar or some type of, voice singing or something like that, he can, fill up the stadium, have the lines out the doors. I mean, he really is something else. We are at amazing and pivotal times in this country. So when you continue on this here, there was just so much. They want to take away our freedoms. This is Jack Posobiec again here.
They are trying to take away our freedoms. They are trying to take away the freedoms of people like Steve Bannon, people like Peter Navarro, who is a political prisoner right now, this very instant, and people like Donald J. Trump, who they want to lock up for 700 years. Are you going to let them lock up Donald Trump? Are you going to let them turn this movement into political dissidents and political prisoners? Will you stand for a totalitarian regime that takes away our freedoms, that takes away our liberties, that takes away our children, that takes away our right to worship, that takes away our right to defend ourselves with the Second Amendment, and a regime that will take us down? What do you have to say to them? Absolutely not.
Great Jack Posobiec. I mean, he was really on fire here. So a lot of stuff came out here. The government had today. This was at speaking. This is Ben Carson. Ben Carson is, of course, on the short list for VP. Let's see what he had to say here.
The founders of our country, they studied every single political system that ever existed in the history of the world. And one of the things that they discovered is that no matter how they start, they all move in the same direction: growth, infiltration, and domination. And we have in Donald Trump somebody who understands that concept and wants to give the power back to the people, because that was the stopgap measure that our founders built into our system: the people and their ability to change when the government is inappropriate. We have that ability. But it means we have to vote appropriately. Everybody in here has a sphere of influence. Use that in an appropriate way. The founders of our country.
Ben Carson, the great Ben Carson there. Yes, there was a lot. There was a lot. It was a great conference. I think what is important, or there's a number of important things. Of course, you had Nick Fuentes as well, and I don't know if he normally holds a conference during this time or if he was just there, but he also had a few people. He was highlighting, the allegiance really to Israel that is entrenched here. I didn't really watch that much of it, but anyway, yeah, he was there. He was doing his thing as well, or he wasn't there. He was outside. We are one movement, one people, one family. Now, and that's what I will say. Of course, you want to. Here's the great Donald Trump here.
We are one movement, one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. And together, we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. We will make America free again. And we will make America great again. Thank you, Michigan. God bless you. Thank you very much. God bless you.
The great Donald Trump. Well, there you have it, guys. I think that's probably a perfect spot for me to close the show. I could go on. There's a lot more. Maybe I'll touch a bit about it more later on the TV show. But hats off to the team at Smart Money Culture TV Network, as well for Matt for joining us. It is always a pleasure to talk to you guys every day. We do the Impact Money Show. What we have going on in this country, a lot of people don't understand. And even people that do understand, I see a lot of them, on stage even, and they have to tap dance around what the truth really is, because people aren't really ready to handle the truth. And you have to water it down for them a little bit so that you don't create an adverse reaction. But where everybody's doing their best job, I think that we need to, as a people, coalesce around each other. I think that the important things that we hold dear to ourselves and to our family those are the things that we need to go back for. We need to look at how the country was started. What are the initial things that were used in order to start the country? And we need to look at those and really go back to those. We're not supposed to have a central bank. We're only supposed to use gold or silver as currency. Okay, I mean, we want to do some type of something else. I guess we can talk about it, but paper money has definitely been used to enslave us. The central bank has been used to enslave us. Religion was also very important. Jesus was always very important as a figure. I think that's extremely important for everybody to remember, that that is a winning message, that Jesus had a winning message, and that we should coalesce around Jesus. And the people that aren't following Jesus, we need to help them to follow Jesus. And that's across the board. And if we're following Jesus, if the country is following Jesus, it doesn't matter what it looks like. It doesn't really matter the people, all these people that are coming in and everything else. If we have that in common, that will fix things. And that's what he told us to do. He told us to prophesy and do those things. And I tried not to get into it too much on the TV show, but I do firmly believe that, and I think that it's important that people understand that, and that we have a lot of people even in this movement who are rejecting Jesus, and we need to prophesy ourselves to those people and get them to know Jesus as their Lord and Savior. So anyway, I don't like to go there that much, but that's the important part, guys. That's what will save us. That's what will save the country. I'm signing off. Cheers.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost, become a champion of free speech, and help to reshape the future of media.